Hi, in today's video we're going to be looking at how to make a colourful piglet. We'll be using food colouring as a fun and inexpensive way to try out watercolours. Click on the link in the description below and you can download the step-by-step guide that I'm working through in this video. For this video you're going to need a pencil, pen and paintbrush. You will also need a palette. I'm using an ice cube tray. You'll need a scrap piece of paper and some paper towel to erase any mistakes. Let's get started. Our first step is to draw Piglet. If you look at the step-by-step guide in the notes, you'll see some quick tips for how to draw a Piglet. First we're going to start with Piglet's mouth and nose area, his muzzle, and we'll make that a heart. Now his head is tilted to the side in the picture, so don't make your heart perfect, it needs to lean to the left a little. So draw a heart nice and lightly. You don't want to see the heart at the end, it's just to help us get our basic shapes and proportions right. Okay, with this, from the center of this heart, we're going to draw a line going down, curving in a C shape, a backwards C. Okay, and that's because he's kind of being more bashful and curving to the side. And we're going to draw a nice circle at the bottom of this line. That's going to give us the shape for his tummy. Right, the top of this heart is going to be the line where his eyes are. So you can use parts of this to make his cheekbone or the line for his cheek. And then you can make his little eyes above that, just ovals shaded in. If you're not feeling confident about their position, do them really lightly so that you can erase it easier if you want to adjust them later. Right, and then from the top of the heart, we're going to draw the top part of his head. It's kind of a square-ish shape that is narrower than the heart. Then we're going to draw in two ovals to mark the ears. Now the ears are also angled to the left a little. Your first oval will be on the left-hand side of the head and it will tilt to the left. And then the second oval is going to be on the right-hand side, right at the top of the head, and that would be more straight up. Okay, now these ovals can help us get a nice rounded shape for Piglet's ear. So look carefully at the completed picture and use your ovals to help you draw the ears. They come to a point. Okay, then I'm going to draw his other ear. The second ear will be higher than the first because his head is tilted to the side. Right, then while we're doing that, we can also add in his eyebrows. They're quite high up on the face, thicker at the start and thinner at the end. C shape. Again, the one eyebrow is higher than the other because his head is tilted, so we've got to make everything tilted. And then we can add in his nose. Now the nose is going to start where this heart is at its lowest point at the top here, and it's kind of a rounded triangular shape. And then from the top of it we'll have the bridge of his nose going up between his two eyes. Curves a bit towards the left hand eyebrow. Okay, and then his little smile is quite close to his nose, comes up nice and high, and then the two C shapes. Right, now to get the bottom of his face correct, we need to work on his body a little bit. So we know that his body is going to be rounded at the bottom, but it's going to get narrower towards the top. So we're going to bring it in a little bit. Right, once we've drawn in the body shape, we can finish off his face. So where the heart comes out, we're going to use that as his cheekbones. They come right down to meet the body, and from the other side as well. Right, so now we're going to draw his arms. So start with just a single line, like a stick figure, to get the movement of the arm right, and then you can make it thicker. Right, so this first arm, it comes down and curves like a little J at the bottom, and this J should get close to this line that we drew down the center of his body. So aim for your arms to end at the center line. Right, the other arm goes down and then it comes across and meets the other arm. So we've got the shape of our arms, or the movement that the arm is making. Now we can make it a little bit thicker. So he's got the little shoulders sticking up. This left hand arm is going to be on top of the right hand arm, so we can draw a straight line for it. Curve it around. Then you can go and draw the right hand arm. Needs to stop when you get to the left hand arm because it's going to go under that arm. And then curve around. And then his feet, again, we can just start with an L shape. I made this come out a bit too far. I'm just going to correct that now that I'm trying to add my feet in. So this is a good thing to do as you're drawing. Just keep checking that the proportions look right and correct things that don't look right. Right, so just start with L shapes. Now his feet are going to end at the same spot. So let's just draw a little ground line so that we know where we're heading for. Okay, we'll draw a ground line for him. So it's just 2 L shapes at first. And then this left hand leg, he's kind of pointing his toe, so it's almost like a triangular shape, that it gets thinner towards the top. And then his right hand leg is more like a B. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just erase some of these lines that we had used to help us draw. So the circles in the ears, the line down the body, the heart shouldn't be visible. And then we're going to add the stripes on Piglet's little jersey. These lines should be curved lines. So I'm going to turn my page to the side because I find it easier to draw a curve like that, and you're more likely to keep these curves parallel if your hand is in a comfortable position. Try and keep them equal distances apart. Right. And there we have our Piglet. We're ready to paint him. Right, so to get this nice orangey pinky color, we're going to mix a little bit of yellow into our red food coloring. So I'm going to do 3 drops of red food coloring and then 1 drop of yellow, just so that it doesn't look so pink. You will need to test your food coloring on your scrap piece of paper to check that you're happy with the color. So I'm just rinsing off my brush now. If you put a brush full of red food coloring into your yellow food coloring, you're not going to have yellow food coloring anymore. So you need to make sure you clean your brush in between dipping it into different bottles. So we're going to add a few drops of our red food coloring to our palette. So I've added about 3 or 4 drops. I'm going to add some water to it and test my color and see that I'm happy with it. If you don't like the color, you might want to add a little bit of yellow to it to get the color that matches Piglet more. So I'm going to give this a test. That's still too bright. I'm going to add some more water to it. I'm just adding 1 drop of yellow to this paint to try and make it match the color of Piglet a bit more. So I've added 1 drop to it. I'm testing it now. It's quite bright, but I think it'll be fine. We'll add some more water to it. Mixing the colors, it's a little bit of trial and error, and you need to test the color before you put it on your picture. So I'm just adding 1 drop of yellow to this paint to try and make it match the color of Piglet a bit more. So I've added 1 drop to it. I'm testing it now. It's quite bright, but I think it'll be fine. We'll add some more water to it. Mixing the colors, it's a little bit of trial and error, and you need to test the color before you put it on your picture. The more you practice working with the colors, the more you'll learn and the faster it will get. Right, I'm going to be adding a lot of water to the picture to try and lighten it up. So I'm just going to start by doing this color over the whole of Piglet. So I'm going to start with his body because that's a nice big area. If it's not blending nicely, you just dip your brush in the water. It will help you spread the paint that's left. Need to work quite quickly, so when you start, you've just got to go for it. Okay, I'm going to add some water to this to spread it out. The more water you add, the easier this paint is to work with. You might want to start on one side, so I keep starting on the left hand side, and it's making it slightly darker on the left hand side, but then that's fine because it's all dark on the left hand side. Let's paint in these little legs. If you find it's a bit too dark in one spot, you can just use your paper towel to dab off some of the paint. Just need to be really careful to just put it down, push it and pull it right up. Dab it, don't rub it, because if you rub it, you're just going to smear paint everywhere. So you just need to dab it down, or like I did, push it over, pat it and lift it straight off. Right. We're going to let this dry for a minute, and then we're going to add a second coat on the areas that we want it to be darker. So the areas we'd like a little darker are his nose and his little jersey and his two ears. If you try and do the second coat too soon, you are going to just make the colors run into each other and there won't be a difference. So you need to give it a good 5 minutes to dry properly. Right, so we've given our piglets a couple of minutes to dry, and we're going to add our second coat of paint. Now please don't rush this. You can see in this picture, I rushed painting his nose and then the color bled into the rest of his face. So you need to be 100% sure that your first coat is dry. What we're going to do is take the exact same wash that we had earlier, and we're just going to darken his nose, his ears. Remember, start on the left. If you have a thick brush, I would suggest that you just draw your piglets a little bit bigger so that you can get these small details. I'm just going to dab some off his nose. It came out a bit too dark. I'm using a number 6 paintbrush, which is kind of in the middle, and it's good for general painting. But if you only have a large brush at home, just draw a bigger piglet, and then those small details will be easier to use for your brush. Okay, we're just going to do another coat over his vest or his stomach. You can see I dabbed his nose just because it was looking just way too dark. We don't want a huge difference. I'm going to do now is just add a bit of water to the paint that I'm using to help me spread it. So because we've already painted one layer of paint on the page and gotten the paper wet already, it's going to weaken the paper. So if you keep going back over the same spot again and again trying to get it perfect, you're going to end up making a hole in your page. So you rather just need to let it dry and hide it with pen. It's actually a really good idea when you have all this paint mixed anyway to do 3 or 4 of them and play around with it and learn what works for you. I often keep these little pictures and use them as birthday cards for friends and family. We're going to leave this to dry again. Right, our piglet is nice and dry now, and we're ready to add our shading in. I'm using a black pen, and we're just going to go around the outline and add in a few lines to show some darker shading. Let's start with his feet because they are nice and easy. It's a good place to start. I'm not outlining in a solid line, but rather a couple of broken lines. The top of his foot's going to have quite a bit of shadow on it because it's underneath his body, and then it can get narrower as it gets to the bottom. A little bit of dark shading on the bottom of his foot. Right, outline the other leg. And again, some dark shading right underneath the body and a little bit along the bottom of the foot. Right, so moving up to his body now. I'm not pressing very hard with my pen, so I'm just doing a couple of lighter strokes. So don't sit there and press really hard and do these dark lines. If you are pressing lighter with lighter strokes, it's easier to hide a mistake, because that's the thing about drawing with a pen, is you can't just erase a line that doesn't look right. So just light lines, so that if one's a little bit wrong, it's not going to ruin your whole picture. Okay, we're going to go over each of the lines on his stomach now. Be careful not to go over his arms. The reason I'm outlining his stomach before his arms is that when you outline the arms, you can clean up those lines from the stomach. They're not going to go into the arm. It looks a bit neater at the end. The other thing we're going to do on his tummy is just add a little bit of dark shading on this left hand side. I'm just drawing really short little lines close together. Right, let's outline his arm now. Again, a little bit of dark shading, very light lines. Maybe a bit of shadow on his tummy from the arm. Right, we're going to go into his face now. Start with his nose. If you didn't get the nose perfectly right, you can use your pen to just neaten off those edges. So if it was a little bit wobbly, you can use a nice good strong line with your pen to hide those errors. Put his little smile on now. Both of the ears look like they're almost behind the face, so you can draw the outline of the face and then draw the outline of the ears. And then just a little bit of shading on those ears. And there we have Piglet. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you have any questions about how to draw Piglet or using food coloring to brighten up your pictures, please leave a question in the comments below. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, why not subscribe? I put up a new video every week. You can watch our next video here.